All right, thanks.
Did he enjoy himself?
Oh, he loves it. You know, they fitted him for his home pool, but I think he'll do more. I think that's cool. They had to cut it down.
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
Well, and
And
it's just
honestly,
small.
supposed to be up there for 4 or 5
And
days.
there is there's no cutting dry. It's wherever you feel comfortable swimming.
Call the meeting to order. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, looking for a motion on the approval of the agenda.
So moved. I'd like to make an addition.
Okay.
I'd like to add a discussion under other business of the county board about electronically broadcasting minutes of entire contents.
You want that on what, first and two?
Sure.
You're making a motion on the agenda, correct, Commissioner Walker? Need a second? Need a second? Need a second? No second for the amended agenda. Commissioner McMahon.
I think it's a, Mr. Chair, I think it's a good thing to discuss, and I think the only thing we have to do is ask to be put on the agenda for next meeting
Okay,
for discussion.
okay, need a motion for the regular agenda then.
Motion to put the discussion item on the regular agenda item of next board meeting.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner McMahon makes a motion on the agenda and Commissioner Walker seconds it. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, Joe?
Mr. Chair, before you go on, can we just clarify, so the motion was to approve tonight's agenda with the condition that this also be added for future agendas, is that correct?
That's correct.
Just want to clarify the motion for the minutes.
Yeah.
That's the, understood, that's the motion
For the next.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a not too long a report to go through tonight. As you can see, we've got a lot of projects that we did out the last few weeks. Our design project update, we have both our HSIP projects have been submitted successfully to the state and they're working their way through the system. And then we are working on both our Old Town Road and County Road 26 reconstruct projects. One of the contracts up for your approval is our 2015 annual bridge inspection. While we are responsible for 55 bridges, I think we only need 23 inspected this year. Some bridges are on an annual inspection and others are every 2 years. So next year will be a little heavier, but this year it's only 20. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was the Trunk Highway 95 Corridors of Commerce Coalition. That met last week. I did attend. That was their first meeting. They're sort of feeling out what people may be interested, what entities, what municipalities. I thought it was a good meeting. They're definitely moving in the right direction. They're going to be sending out a survey to see what municipalities, what communities, counties would be interested in attending it. Right now, they were talking about joint powers. I'm not entirely sure they're going to go that route yet. I did give them Nora Holtz contact info with the highway task force, so they could probably talk, to her and see, and just sort of see how that task force has operated. Yes, sir.
What are they trying to accomplish, these people?
Well, that's what they wanna know. So they see what the Trunk Highway 8 Task Force, maybe the 65 Coalition, they're trying to bring more projects, more funding to Trunk Highway 95. Now, that corridor, what they have is from Taylor's Falls to Princeton, which is a lot of ground to cover. There was an Isani County Commissioner there was a couple mayors, some township representation, some law enforcement, Mr. Olsine was there from Congressman Nolan's office, but there's gonna be, I think, a lot of, diversity in what people are looking for. And part of this survey is not only would you be interested in participating, but I think they're gonna wanna know what hot button issues are there to go after, so. But I'm assuming we'll get a copy of that, and I'll make sure the administrator gets it if he doesn't, get it himself, and you guys can take a look. And as far as participation in it, I do attend the Trunk Highway, the Highway Task Force. I would leave it up to the board if, you see fit for me to attend these meetings, as I can as well, depending on what, depending on what their charge is and what their mission is, I think there'd be some merit. However, I think, right now, we're just, I'm gonna wait and see.
We didn't establish nothing.
No, it was more of a meet and greet, and here's what we're looking to accomplish. A lot of the talk started off with the joint powers, and I think, I don't wanna say scared up, but people are wondering if they need to go that far. So, again, it was more of a meet and greet and test the waters, and I think we'll see more coming out of that. Well, over the last couple weeks, we've bid out 9 projects, and we did get some pretty good bids. Whether it was bidding it early, how we spec'd it out, the bituminous prices were down about 28%, from what we were paying in just last year. So that's quite a drop, where we were concerned with maybe having, dip into some reserves to fund some of these projects, that is no longer necessary. I'll run through the list. Hopefully you guys got all those in your packet. They've got the maps as well. If you got any questions on them, we'll just handle them one by one. Our County 25 reconditioning project in Lindstrom between Newell and down to Mockmeyer. Knife River got that project. We're looking to start that one. Won't start until after school is out. Our seal coat project went to Farner this year. That's on County 19 from 14 all the way over to 30. Our County 25, 30 and 36 micro surfacing projects all went to Aztec, as we expected. But even the aggregate prices were a little higher than last year, but their emulsion price was lower. So. Our County 2 resurfacing project, Knife River also got that. Our 3 overlay projects, then 2 went to Valley paving and 1 went to Park Construction. And again, those projects, we tried to spec out as contractor schedule friendly as possible. They have basically the summer to do it. Once they do start it, however, they have only a number of working days to complete it. So they can jostle these and figure these into their schedule, and we suspect that's why we got some of the prices we got.
Commissioner Robinson?
And that, that micro surfacing, between Russ City and Harris, the sand trucks, basically ruin that road. By doing that, how long will that last until the road's back to the way it is right now?
I'm just as interested in you, to find out.
Could be a couple of years.
Could be
Or 1
longer.
year.
The project we did on 23 hasn't shown any signs of deteriorating. It does its cracking, but it's not rutting, it's not anything. Now it doesn't.
Does the sand trucks
It doesn't
go on?
get as much truck traffic, but it gets on the order of, maybe 4,000 more vehicles a day on it. So, Before that goes down, our forces they're working on 25 now, we've been putting in a real half-inch minus real sand mix type of asphalt. In fact, we go down to Shifsky's in North St. Paul to get it hot mix. We blow out the cracks and the holes, we tack them, and then we fill it with asphalt and roll it. So structurally, it'll get pretty close to being solid as it was when it was first paved. Then we'll come over the top with this microsurface to get the ride back.
Nobody knows
No,
what.
I can tell you the state's been using it on trunk highways, and 52, I went and saw 52, I saw them do that a couple of years ago, and there isn't any rutting on 52, I just was down there to a scout camp here this winter, and it rode just fine. So we're cautiously optimistic.
Just wondering, but North Dakota's slowing down some on the oil, but that can change too.
Correct.
Hey Joe,
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, I'm curious what type of repair will be done on County 30 this year?
30 from,
In the North Branch, Lent Township area.
it'll just, will just be pothole fill.
Okay.
Yep.
Cause there appears to be maybe 3 sections that the road is just coming apart.
Yep. Yeah, and actually now that the weather's gotten real warm, you see, our cold mix our UPM doesn't stick in there as well as the hot mix. In a couple weeks here, we expect commercial to open up, and then in another week, we expect Harris, Knife River up in Harris to open up. Once the hot mix goes into those patches, you'll see a big difference in retaining those. But that's what we've got scheduled this year, just preventative.
Just a quick follow-up, are the Tiger funds available for that type of a concrete paving initiative? Can we apply for those grant dollars?
I'm actually looking at that. I've got a call into MnDOT for a couple of different projects. That was one, we had put together it was like a $20 million project from where we left off in Stacy up to the county line. And then also looking at putting the Highway 8 4-lane expansion from Chisago back to Forest Lake. And what I'm getting right now is that they don't feel that those are good projects. I'm still going, there's a application for these federal dollars. And what they're saying is kind of what we've been talking about. There's gonna be opportunities, whether it's a TED grant or a Corridors of Commerce, more of a state program, that'll fit what we wanna do in those corridors, even the Highway 8 job, better.
Okay. Thank you.
That's all I did. Yep.
I have a question about the reflective signs. Can you give an estimate when they're gonna be installed countywide?
As far as us meeting the retro, I think we're there. We might have a few engineering grade signs left that we're trying to chase down. Again, we have somewhere on the order of 8,000 some signs, and we have this huge database of signs, and it's only as good as what's in there. So part of one field in that database is what kind of sheeting it has. Is it diamond grade, is it high intensity prismoidal, or is it engineering grade? And engineering grade signs are what the federal requirements are looking to get rid of. So we've only got a few that I'm aware of left that we have to chase down and manually see if those are actually engineering grade signs or not. Our regulatory signs they all meet standards. These are more like maybe a directional sign or something along those lines. But as far as speed limits and stop signs, those signs all meet the federal requirements.
Okay, I received communication from a constituent in Stacy, and they're concerned with not being able to see the signs at night, and I assume that this was to correct that problem.
That's a reflectivity issue.
And as well concerned with branches in the way of county roads. Maybe I can have you respond to the constituent if you're saying that the project is complete.
Well, it's not a project, it's an ongoing thing. But if there's branches in the way, sure, we rely pretty heavily on the traveling public to let us know where those are.
Well, if they're in Stacy, that's gonna show Essex district.
I will respond to wherever district we have to.
Copy me in on it.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
Mr. Chair,
Lynn Township is what I meant.
Sure.
Stacy mailing it to.
I'll move the county engineer's report on to the
How about tab 1 to the
Tab
well?
1 through 11 to onto the common board.
I'll leave it
Okay,
on
consent,
consent.
okay. Commissioner McMahon makes the motion to move. Any second? Commissioner Mopsa seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Carried. Thank you,
Nice
Mark.
work, Joe.
Okay. Kelly,
Dr.
Ms. Strobel, Quinn?
Early, sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Strobel, Chief Medical Examiner for Chisago County. And this is my second year coming to present a summary of the deaths that our office investigated for the preceding year, so this would be for 2014. You should have received a letter and then a sheet with statistical numbers. In 2014, our office investigated 336 deaths in Chisago County. Of those, 134 were registered hospice patients and 247 cremations were approved. 22% of these incidents required a scene investigation. That means that we have a death investigator who is employed by our office, who lives locally, and they respond personally to a death scene on behalf of our office. Of the cases we investigated, we assumed jurisdiction of 65 cases. Jurisdiction means that we were responsible for signing the death certificate. Of those 65, 43 autopsies were performed, an increase of 19 over 2013. In addition, there were 2 incidents where somebody found bones that we examined and classified them as non-human, which is good news. 21 deaths requiring an autopsy were due to natural causes. The decedents ranged in age from 33 to 87 years with an average of 56. Of these, 11 were associated with a form of heart disease. In addition, 2 men aged 44 and 59 died due to complications of diabetes. 2 people, a man aged 41 and a woman aged 63, died due to complications of infection. 2 people, a woman aged 54 and a man aged 64, died due to chronic alcoholism. And the remaining 4 people who required an exam had multiple medical issues. 21 deaths were classified as accidental, 7 of which were motor vehicle related, which is an increase of about 4 from 2013. A 24-year-old female passenger, for unknown reasons, veered off the road and crashed. A 71-year-old man crashed his vehicle after he was seen to be driving erratically. A 72-year-old woman crossed the center line and collided with another vehicle. 2 incidents involved male drivers intoxicated with alcohol. A 52-year-old man crashed his SUV and a 66-year-old man crossed the center line and struck another vehicle. In separate events, 2 elderly men aged 81 and 85 years died due to incidents with a lawn tractor. Of the non-motor vehicle related accidental deaths, 6 were associated with alcohol and or drug abuse. 2 males in separate incidents, aged 19 and 24, used someone else's methadone. A 30-year-old woman mixed alcohol and a sleep aid. A 34-year-old man died of acute alcohol intoxication. Another 38-year-old man had a stroke, a 38-year-old man had a stroke due to using cocaine, and a 52-year-old woman misused someone else's fentanyl patch. Of the other accidental deaths, 2 involved drownings, both of the St. Croix River. A 21-year-old man tragically died after jumping in to save his nephew, and a 28-year-old man who was intoxicated with alcohol was attempting to cross the river and drowned. Of the other deaths, a 70-year-old man choked on food, and 5 people aged 83 to 99 died due to complications of injuries sustained in short falls, typically from standing height or bed height, and they most commonly have hip fractures and then die from being immobilized. 7 deaths, 2 men and 2 women, or 5 men and 2 women were classified as suicide. The decedents ranged in age from 15 to 75 years. The only little tiny piece of good news on this sheet is that no death investigated by our office was classified as a homicide. It's an honor and privilege to be your medical examiner. If anyone has any questions for me?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
How do you tell on a car accident if someone has a heart attack that causes them to have that? Is it still classified as a car accident that killed them, or?
That's a very good question. There's multiple factors. First of all, the cause. So when someone is seen to be driving erratically and they are found to not be under the influence of something, if the autopsy shows minor injuries and severe disease, you would, determine that's natural and do it the natural causes. Sometimes if somebody is having a cardiac event, but they still have very extensive injuries that looked like they were still, had a blood pressure and alive, we would classify those as an accident and list their natural disease as a contributory condition.
Thank you.
I have a question also, Doctor, is how many states have medical examiners like you sign off on all the deaths? Are Minnesota one of the few, or do all states have this? I know some other states a doctor signs the doctor certificate, so.
We only sign some, and that's so when only a certain number of deaths are even reported to us.
Okay, so that a doctor, a physician signs a certificate. Does that certificate come to you then, or just?
No, it only comes to us. We have a wonderful relationship with the Department of Health. If a physician tries to list something accidental or a trauma or toxicity, it gets kicked back to the medical examiner.
Okay.
But if it's a natural death in a hospital or a nursing home, a physician can sign it and we would probably never see it.
Commissioner Walker.
I have a question about two of the statistics. Are you able to talk a little bit more about the two individuals who were listed as deceased from infectious disease and the two that died of complications of insulin-dependent diabetes?
A little bit, trying to be generic.
Yes.
I believe the two with infectious disease, they were mainly lung infections, and they had other contributory conditions that made them more susceptible to dying. If anything were significant in a public health standpoint, we again work with the Department of Health should that require notification or other kind of activity. And then I apologize. And the diabetes, again, I think they just had a history of poorly controlled diabetes and or other issues kind of that, because typically that wouldn't come under our jurisdiction or require an autopsy when somebody has such significant natural disease. There's probably some other kind of incident or issue that required an exam.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bruce, do you
Want to consent?
go through consent?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, tonight's consent agenda consists of 15 items, and they are as follows. Item number 1 is to accept the county engineer's report. Item number 2 is to approve recommendation for resurfacing County State Aid Highway 25. Third item is to approve recommendation for bituminous overlay of County Road 91. Item number 4 is to approve recommendation for a bituminous overlay project on County Road 86. Item number 5 is to approve the recommendation for overlay work on County Road 71. Item number 6 is recommendation to approve an agreement with Collins Engineering for bridge inspections. Item number 7 is to approve a recommendation for a cold-in-place recycling on County State Aid Highway 2. Item number 8 is to approve a microsurfacing project on County State Aid Highway 36. Item number 9 is to approve a recommendation for microsurfacing on County State Aid Highway 30. Item number 10 is to approve a microsurfacing project for County State Aid Highway 25. Item number 11 is to approve the annual seal coat program for the county. Item number 12 is to approve the minutes from the April 1st, 2015 meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Item number 13 is to authorize payment of the county's warrants and miscellaneous bills as contained within the board packet. Item number 14 is to approve applications for abatement of property taxes as recommended by the county assessor and county auditor. Item number 15 is to approve miscellaneous tobacco license applications.
Thank favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries.
With the board's consent, we could move up item number 21. Ms. Chavez is here, and she could come early and cover the best application, if that would be of interest to the board. Come on up, Amy, you're up.
How's everyone this evening? I think you received all the information regarding the grant that I'm requesting. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions.
Good work. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
To move the grant, do we need a motion for that?
Yeah.
I would make that motion.
Commissioner Matzka makes the motion, Commissioner Walker seconds. Any further discussion for Amy?
Amy, do you wanna discuss it at all? I mean, do you wanna talk to the board?
Just run out of here.
Yeah, goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, we could also take item number 22.
Okay, we haven't voted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay.
Item number 22 comes from the county attorney, and his recommendation to consider proclaiming May 1st, 2015 as 2015 Law Day. Now, I do note that last month we had a request to make I think it was county week, and we got some criticism, so we're ready for this one. Christine's here to defend Law Day if you need to, so.
Move approval.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Need a second?
There you go.
Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
I'll continue. Item number 23 is a request from Nancy Deline from the Health and Human Services Department. The request is that the Board of Commissioners approve a Minnesota Department of Health Ebola United States Domestic Response Contingency Emergency Response Funding Community Health Board Grant Project Agreement. The agreement is for $2,500, and as you can see, it really will go to support accelerated preparedness and planning for responding to an Ebola crisis. And the recommendation is for approval. I would note just one thing, and that is that it is fully federally grant funded. There are some in-kind support, but no out-of-pocket expenses.
Need a motion to approve? Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Matzka seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Continuing on, item number 24 in your board packet also comes from Nancy, and it's a request for approval of two agreements that ensure that necessary information is shared between Chisago County and the Department of Human Services, and that this be done in a timely, cost-effective manner. There is no cost for these agreements.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Commissioner Matzka seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Items number 25, 26, and 27 are all similar. The board does have the proclivity, if you want to combine them. They are home and community-based waiver service contracts with Meridian Services, Pinnacle Services, and Thomas Allen Incorporated. I can go into greater detail, or if the board is comfortable with the material, you can approve them either individually or as a group.
I'll move approval as a group.
Okay, Commissioner McMahon makes the motions for all three. Need a second? Commissioner Matzka seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Item number 20 is a request from the sheriff, and we can start conversation if you don't complete it by 7. He and the Human Resources Department has done an analysis of what's happening in our dispatch center, and they've raised some concerns to the board. We have a situation where several of the dispatchers are retirement eligible, and also we do have a couple of FMLA related issues in the department. As a result, the sheriff is also looking at our overtime costs, and he believes that he could make use of an additional overstrength at this time, which would be absorbed back into the budget when there's a vacancy, so there'd be a seamless integration there. He thinks he can do this with existing funds and also with lower overtime costs. And so Renee's looked at it. Her recommendation, just so you understand, is although you might authorize up to 1 FTE, We do have a current part-time dispatcher, which we would ask if they'd like to go full-time first, and then if not, then backfill. But because of the critical function of dispatches, the sheriff would like to bring this forward, and we do recommend approval.
Move approval.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Need a second?
Second?
Commissioner Monster, you second?
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay, we'll go to citizens forum.
Citizens forum is provided so that citizens or residents may make a comment, statement, question, or proposal. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes and are asked to conduct themselves in a professional, courteous manner and refrain from speaking or use of profanity. Failure to abide by the policy may result in the loss of privileges to speak during the night. The first person who signed up to speak is Denise Carlson.
Hello again. Denise Carlson. I would like to start by thanking you for enforcing the 90-day sex offender moratorium for Chisago County. And more importantly, for following Commissioner Robinson's recommendation for a strict ordinance. I feel it's important we reiterate what we were asking of the county attorney in terms of drafting up an ordinance. It was recommended that a 2,000-foot restriction from any schools, parks, or licensed daycare be established in terms of housing these offenders. I ask that we enforce the same strict ordinance that has been put in place for the current moratorium into the final draft, as placing a 2,000-foot restriction would not protect most of northern Chisago County. My next concern is what type of offenders we are including. As we greatly appreciate addressing level 3 offenders, we must acknowledge that there have been many level 2 offenders who have sexually assaulted children and are being housed in Chisago County within feet of children. Not only are we not notified of these predators when they are released, but they are released with less restrictions, allowing easier access to nearby children. I ask that we follow the recommendations of Commissioner Walker and Commissioner McMahon during the March 4th meeting and not only address level 3 offenders, but whether they are level 1, 2, or 3, and they have sexually assaulted another human being or have attempted murder, they are offenders, and we do not want them in our neighborhood. I hope you can appreciate our passion when it comes to protecting our community. Like we said before, we moved to the country to let ourselves and our kids live a country life. Although no safety is ever guaranteed, putting this extra measure of protection in place has to be done. Thank you.
The next person who is going to speak is Ms. Brenda.
My name is Brenda Bowe, and I live in Stacy, Lent Township. I'm so upset with all of this, seeing what my sister that just spoke, and what's happening to Chisago County. I went to North Branch High School, and I moved away for 15 years. I went down to the University of St. Thomas, and I lived in the cities for 15 years. And when I got married, I chose to come back to this county. I have 3 children. My first son, Tommy, is 5, and my twins are 4. And we have heard such great things about Chisago that my first concern with all of this was how great Chisago was, and we need to send our kids to Chisago school, and how the DOC would approve these sex offenders to be placed right across the street from where Chisago has the bus pickup on Lanesboro Way. And so now, after all these meetings have taken place, I'm appreciative that there's the ordinance or the moratorium that's going to take place on not having the offenders. But my concern is that I live in Chisago County, but I live in Lent Township. So I want to make sure that Lent Township is included in that moratorium. I keep hearing through the meeting at the school in North Branch and how offenders are everywhere. And it's different. I lived in the cities for 15 years. And when you're down there, you have people that you're living next to each other, you're on top of each other. People can keep their eyes on you. And I have children chosen to move back to the country so that we can enjoy our acreage and raise a family. Every one of our family members that come to Stacy and spend time with our kids say, this is the best place on earth to raise a family, and I want to make sure that it stays that way. So, like I said, I live in Chisago County, Lynn Township, and I ask that, I'm begging, pleading, making motion, whatever needs to be done, that Lynn Township is covered under the new moratorium and not including to level 1, 2, or 3 sex offenders. Thank you.
Next to speak is Ms. Brooke Lacey Orphan. Orphan or Orphan, I'm sorry.
Orphan.
Orphan, thank
Yeah.
you.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just wanted to say again, thank you for passing the moratorium. We all greatly appreciate it. I also did want to make a comment about Commissioner Motska. I 100% agree with you that everyone has the right, the constitutional right to decide where to live. And again, I agree with Janet Ryder also. But felons do not have the right to bear arms. Felons do not have the right to vote. And I think that the right to choose your own place to live is one of those things that you lose when you choose to commit a crime like what these men have done in the past. I guess I was also curious as to why it seems to be so difficult to pass one of these ordinances in our county or in our townships when the cities have passed them. I guess that's another question that I have as to why does County Attorney Ryder seem to think that it's so much more difficult to do this countywide when some of the cities have already done that? So that was just another question that I had. Thank you.
Next to speak is Ms. Danbo, Mr. Danbo, sorry.
Hi, my name's Dan Bow, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about this. And this is, it goes towards the moratorium that you're working on passing in Chisago County. And what I'm looking for is more information. And right now, we hear a lot of things through the grapevine and a lot of rumors. And my biggest concern is where we have chosen to live. My wife is giving you the background. We moved from the cities. We chose to move out here for a better way of life, to raise our kids out in the country. And I feel like the man that's choosing to house these people is almost making this a game. And the rumors that we're hearing, the moratorium that you're working on trying to pass, he's trying to find out loopholes where he can put these people right on Lent Trail in Stacy. Because it's out of Chisago County and we're in the Lent Township, he feels like he can put these people right on our road, across our street. And I feel like it's almost turning into a game to him. And what I need is more information. We need more information. We're choosing to live our lives out here for a better way of living. And I feel like I'm a little bit in the dark right now, and maybe I'm a little bit behind in the information that is out there. But if this is a game to him, and there is a loophole for him to continue to house people like this, and this is his mission, whatever, I think it's got to stop. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up to speak, sir.
I'm going to ask the county administration to comment on behalf of some of the residents in my district as to if this moratorium covers Lynn Township in the same way that it does every other part of the county.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner Walker, I have asked the county attorney for an opinion. I don't have that tonight.
Can I get that as soon as you get it?
The full board will get it, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to 29. Oh wait, we can go back to Kurt. Come on up, Kurt.
He's still early at 7:20 for him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My items, I'll back you up to tab number 16. Hopefully have some relatively quick items for you tonight. It's a shorter agenda list for me. So with your permission, I'll proceed with tab number 16, which is a quick summary of my director's report. Okay. You'll see I have 4 action items before you tonight. 3 of them are listed in my director's report. The watercraft no wake ordinance, as we refer to it, staffing seasonal park ranger item, trail beacon acquisition. And then the 4th item that's not listed is we have a vacancy on the planning commission and are looking for permission to proceed with the advertising for a large new planning commission member. A quick summary of items in my director's report for you. You can note Board of Adjustment has a variance request coming up. It's an after-the-fact variance request, and that's proceeding on April 30th. Back page of the director's report, you'll see we did receive a couple of applications for our planning commission meeting on May 7th. The first item, however, it may not show up in the copies too well, but you'll see the bold note at the bottom of the first item. The Snow Barren Snowmobile Club has indicated and submitted an application to amend their conditional use permit. However, we did proceed publishing, but we've determined that the application materials are not fully complete, and so that won't proceed into the public hearing stage on May 7th, and I'll keep you apprised of the process of that application. And the second item is an interim use permit related to a home business. A few general department updates for you. You'll see the construction and permit activity is actually moving along in a very comparable fashion to last year, which was a good year for us. One item of note, I didn't put it in the update, but last year's numbers to date included a couple of large projects, and so last year's numbers were higher, but this year we're about $12,000 less and on pace, even though we haven't had those 2 large projects. So there's been an uptick in other smaller projects that have helped permitting and land use activities move forward. I did want to note for you, and I did hear our solid waste division recently completed the 2014 SCORE report. For those not familiar with the SCORE acronym, it's the Governor's Select Committee on Recycling and the Environment. We receive a fair amount of SCORE funding annually from the state. There has been a change this year. The SCORE process is no longer using we're no longer able to use an estimated commercial tonnage as far as recycling. And so one of the challenges you're going to see with our recycling numbers in the SCORE reporting process statewide is the removal of that estimating process and the refinement of the reporting process for commercial recycling will result in what we think will be a real recycling number. And in the case of our county, our recycling actual numbers are reduced somewhat this year, and I expect we'll see that in other counties as well. As we get better commercial numbers and move away from the estimating process to actual tonnages from our commercial vendors, we'll see those numbers go up again. Quick note for you, tomorrow's park board meeting, they'll be reviewing the master plan for the Swedish Immigrant Trail. It's really becoming a refined document now. I'm kind of excited to bring that forward when they're done with it and present it to you. Our aquatic invasive species programming efforts are going to be active here in the next couple of weeks. We've offered and hired a number of aquatic invasive species inspectors. Upper Forest Lake District has given an indication they'd like to expand their participation, and I noted for you that we may be bringing forward a slight amendment to our agreement with them in the near future. And then a quick follow-up. On Monday, Administrator Messelt and I met with DNR staff to talk a bit about the Swedish Immigrant Trail termination point in the state park, continuation of the trail through the state park, and coordination efforts there. We deemed it as a good meeting, successful meeting. We aren't quite able, or I guess I should say we confirmed our assumptions about timelines for the state park trail, which is a longer term timeline, 4 to 5 years out or thereabouts. However, our efforts to gain temporary construction agreements and move forward with the construction of our piece of the trail all look good, and we're excited to proceed and work with the DNR and certain partnership roles in the future as far as the trail goes. So with that, that's my director's report. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Walker?
I know you were in the room earlier, Kurt, and heard me talk a little bit with Joe about the Tiger funds. I noticed in the past, they have funded trails, that have economic interest, and it certainly does to Lindstrom, the Swedish Immigrant Trail completion, so that may be a good fit for those funds as well. I understand there's 500 million of them
I'll talk with,
that aren't local tax dollars.
I'll talk with
Let's
Joe
dip in
about
there if
that.
we can.
Any further questions? Okay, continue then.
Okay, tab number 17. Tab number 17 is an item you've seen a couple of times here in recent meetings, both on November 20th of 2014 and then again on February 18th of 2015. I'm bringing forward for you in tab number 17 the final version of the no wake ordinance, I guess as we refer to it. And so attached to the request for board action is the fully vetted and reviewed ordinance regulating the use of watercraft on waterways within Chisago County. The quick summary for you is this ordinance would, if adopted, put in place a 300-foot no-wake zone during periods of high water. That would be the no-wake zone from shore out into the lake. And then also a 150-foot no-wake zone around swimming beaches. And it would only be in place during periods of high water. Attached to the ordinance, you'll see the Department of Natural Resources widely distributed our draft after public hearings and public comment. They had very minor recommendations for changes, a spelling correction and a ordinary high water number addition. Otherwise, they appreciate and have no further comment on the ordinance, and we're bringing it forward for you today. Would definitely recommend approval at your discretion.
Move approval.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Need a second? Commissioner Maska seconds. Any further discussion? Commissioner Robinson?
The one part I didn't agree with was they had it in there that any licensed police officer could arrest somebody. And the way I got it, like a Pine County cop or whoever could arrest someone on one of our lakes. And to me, I thought that was wrong, and I couldn't get anybody else to agree with me on it, so.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Park Ranger?
Tab number 18. As you know, the Aquatic Invasive Species Program is proceeding. We did outline in that program that we'd like to enlist the aid of our seasonal park rangers in the aquatic invasive species inspection protocol and process. To do that, they are required to take additional training. I've also noted for you, and the purpose for this request, the difference in wage between our aquatic invasive species inspectors and the park ranger positions. The park rangers haven't had an adjustment since 2007, and with the additional aquatic invasive species programming and duties, we're recommending equalizing the pay between AIS inspectors and park rangers.
Okay.
Move approval.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Need a second? Commissioner Maska seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Tab number 19 is a trail easement acquisition request to assist in routing adjustments for the Swedish Immigrant Trail in the area of the Herberg Road crossing. We have identified with some alignment of the trail, work on alignment of the trail, the need for some minor easement acquisition work. We initiated some discussions with the neighboring property owner, and it has become evident that it would be a win-win situation between the property owner and the county to realign the trail slightly, acquire a .57 acre easement, and we've negotiated acquisition accordingly. Attached is I have a black and white copy. If you have a color, it might be easier to see, but you'll see it's an area along the road, .57 acres in size, and you have the easement description and the easement document attached as well. We're asking for your approval to proceed with acquisition.
I'm gonna move approval of this acquisition, and I hope that the other negotiations that we're having with the other property owners go as well, so we can start putting this whole trail together. And I know that Kurt and County Administrator Nestle have met with the state, hopefully you gave them what we felt as a board, a very strict timeline and not 5 years.
We pushed him as hard as we could. Kurt was a little too soft-spoken about that, so.
I push them harder.
Well, that's your job, that's not our job.
I'll do it.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Need a second? Commissioner Maska seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries.
Tab number 20 on my last item for you tonight. We've unfortunately had a planning commissioner submit a letter of resignation. Mr. Tom O'Mara of Hillcrest Drive in Stacy. His letter is attached, and we are asking to proceed as we have historically done with the advertising of the vacancy and the application and eventual appointment process for an at-large planning commission position.
Okay.
So moved.
Commissioner Walker makes a motion to approve. Need a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner McMahon seconds. Commissioner Walker.
Discussion. Can we please send a letter to Mr. O'Meara and thank him for his service?
Absolutely.
He served for a long time and he served well.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Well, thank you very much, Kurt.
Item number 29 on the board's agenda is a request from the Sheriff's Office. It is a request for permission to purchase a new snowmobile using funds from the sale of an old 2006 Polaris snowmobile, as well as funds received from the Snowmobile Safety Enforcement Grant. It is before the board because your procurement policy, even though there's not an additional cost, requires that anything that's not been budgeted come to you for permission for approval. And we do recommend authorization to procure the snowmobile.
Okay. Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Maska makes a motion to approve. Need a second? Commissioner McMahon seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Item number 30 is a request from the county attorney to approve the execution of a quitclaim deed to Martin and Lori Schutard in exchange for a quitclaim deed back to Chisago County. The background information talks about the legal description and necessity of doing this related to the old Nestle Town Hall site. It is recommended for approval.
Okay.
Move approval.
Commissioner McMahon makes a motion to approve. Need a second? Commissioner Robinson seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Item number 31 is a request for the County Board of Commissioners to establish a date for a public hearing to consider an ordinance relating to residency of level 3 predatory offenders. Just a little bit of background here, kind of gets to the flavor of some of the conversations. As you know, cities operate under different statutory authority than counties, and cities actually have greater statutory authority than counties. As a result, the authority for a county to issue a moratorium is in fact under land use regulations. As a result of that, we have to follow that particular statute. That's one of the reasons why the Lent question has come up, because they exercise their own land use jurisdiction. So that's hence why we're seeking clarification of that. However, under the statute governing land use regulations, and the only place where effectively a moratorium like this is authorized, it does allow for the county board to assign responsibility for the public hearing. Initially, you had assigned it to the planning commission. However, you had also assigned the county attorney to do the drafting of the moratorium. As a result, we have two things to do tonight. One is you need to set a date so we can publicly advertise the public hearing. And the second is you need to assign a responsible authority to hold the public hearing. The statute allows you to do that. It can be a statutory officer, it can be this board, the Board of Adjustment, or it can be the Planning Commission. What is recommended, therefore, is that you take two separate actions tonight. First is to set the date, time, and location for the public hearing. We are recommending that be May 20th at 7:15 p.m. in this room in front of the County Board of Commissioners. As you can imagine, the Planning Commission doesn't really feel they have the expertise or the authority. Clearly, this is the purview of the attorney and the sheriff and you guys. And so our recommendation is that you set that, because then Chase and I have to go ahead and we have to advertise it. And because of the type of regulation, it's gonna have to be in both newspapers. So Denise, don't get mad at me now, all right? All right, so, but that's our first recommendation, so.
Okay, we'll do that motion.
So
Make that recommendation. Make that
Walter
motion.
makes the motion,
Second.
Commissioner McMahon seconds. Any further discussion?
Just to set the hearing then?
That's
Yeah,
set the
that's
hearing.
Daytime
part-
location.
That's part of it.
In front of the county board.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Carries unanimously.
Now, I did receive a question related to that, and I do believe the county attorney will obviously endeavor to have the draft ordinance ready well ahead of time of that meeting, so you can review it. You know, like we do with anything, normal board actions. But we think that gives you ample time. It gives you another month then to make any changes or considerations prior to the expiration of the 90-day moratorium. Second action is to ask you to consider amending your resolution, which enacted the moratorium, to amend it so that it designates the county attorney as the person to study and draft the proposed ordinance, and assign you again to hear the hearing. So what it does is, your original motion said the planning commission would study and draft it. We think it's appropriate to amend that so it says the county attorney.
Mr. Chair, I want to move that recommendation.
Commissioner McMahon makes the motion, Commissioner Robinson seconds. Any further discussion? Commissioner
I see that the county administration is recommending approval then.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna support that.
That's nice of you.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Carries unanimously. Okay.
Just a couple quick administration updates.
I'm going to ask you something about the public hearing.
Go ahead, sir.
The public hearing will have people so that we can, all these questions that may have come up tonight or may not have come up tonight can be answered at the public hearing. And that's the reason for a public hearing, is so that everybody gets the information, and it's information, not hearsay.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Commissioner McMahon, if I hear your question/comment, the public hearing is obviously a time for anybody to comment on the draft ordinance. The draft ordinance has to be available. However, if I also heard you, I think what I heard you maybe imply is that perhaps the request of the county attorney would be that a presentation be part of the discussion, so that there's an explanation as well, maybe perhaps right before public comment. Is that what
I
I'm
think that's a
hearing?
good idea, yes.
And then I'll put that request to the county attorney.
Any other questions? Okay, move on.
For administrative updates, just a couple of things. If you had a chance to read tomorrow's headlines tonight, you noticed that the headline of the local paper is that the county is going to be sanctioned by the Department of Corrections. I believe the effective date was the 1st of August, is that sound right?
Late summer, fall.
Late summer. I know the sheriff had given me advance notice. I didn't know that he would have it in the press yet, so I apologize that he did not. And I used the word he did not communicate that to you, sir. But my understanding is that we are under sanction of the Department of Corrections for the jail, that we will lose 7 beds, and that we will be decreased 8 beds? Wow. 8 beds, and that we will be dropped to a 90-day holding facility. My rough numbers are that you can estimate that it'll probably cost the county about another $200,000 this year out of county placements. So I'll be working on a budget adjustment. Next year, probably looking at least $250,000 to $350,000 in additional out-of-county costs because of the sanctions.
Can I discuss that briefly? Is that appropriate?
Yeah.
Well, I think that this might be the best thing for our county. This is what the state's always directing this, how they've done it. We can find out if it really means anything. Maybe it's not gonna be as bad as we think. And there's always been something on the table, which is to make the current jail into a 90-day holding cell. It now is that, apparently, and to see what that is.
And again, my biggest concern is not the holding cell per se, it's the loss of the bed space. Right now, we're putting out on average about 30 prisoners a night in other jails. So you add another 8 to that,